Hey there everyone, Lord Frigid here with another episode of Aether Raids Offense. Today's actually a bit of a milestone since this is the series' 50th entry. Woo! I'd like to take a moment to thank you all for your time and your kind words over the course of this adventure. I actually started this up at a time when I could barely turn my head without seeing a lengthy complaint about Aether Raids and decided, hey, maybe I can do something about this in my own little way. So the series definitely wouldn't be where it is without all of you. Today's entry covers the recently completed light season, which was even easier than usual because the bonus unit rotation included Eir, allowing me to do fun things like run triple mythic on the dragon wagon and toss Raven into a couple other teams to add Gale Force utility and soak Bright Shrine penalties. I actually had 2 slip-ups this season where I made the mistake of trying to play a match close to daily reset, which is midnight my time, and lost a unit because I didn't go through my usual rigorous planning process. Overall though, it was a very smooth experience and I'm quite excited to get into these battles. The first map up is a Cavline-esque team that focuses coverage on the right-hand side. It's actually an anima defense map, but I guess it performs well enough in light dark season to warrant use. And I'm actually somewhat strapped for interesting battle showcase, so here we are. Just like with more standard Cavlines, the map's objective is to overwhelm attackers with the swarm of 2 ranged cavalry. Particularly, I would assume that the team is set up so that Olwen receives Mirabellis' refresh after a bait attempt, which extends her range quite considerably. The best way to deal with maps like this is to just have a solid 2-range tank. If you don't have enough space open on the back line to handle a turn 1 initiation, you can travel up the left-hand side and break the Dark Shrine. Since this space is also out of range of the cavalry, you can even put a backline support unit here if you need to. As long as your unit can handle the onslaught, you'll be able to deal with most of the enemies on the first turn of engagement. If you're using Eir with Mystic Boost, you might even consider leaving her in the bottom right corner and breaking the field structure once you're all set up, to bait Veronica and ensure that she cannot receive Mirabellis' refresh. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and send in the Dragon Wagon team for this battle. I will be doing a turn 1 initiation since I do have 3 open spaces on the back line. Well, technically I only need 2 of those spaces for this particular map, since even after receiving Mirabellis' refresh, Olwen cannot target the space just above the lower left corner. But it's always nice to have that extra space for actual real Cavlines. So, Legendary Leif is attacking first, which is pretty obvious since he was the only enemy in range to do so. He will fall to 231s plus an iceberg. I'm interested to see who moves next between Olwen and Thrasir. Neither of them have assists, so I guess I'm just wondering how that's going to play out. Okay, looks like Olwen, and she does absolutely nothing. She's got a decent amount of buffs on her too. I believe she has plus 5, 6, 6, 6 buffs, since she does have odd speed wave. And even with that refined Thunderhead, I guess the power of double Eir and Fortify Res 4 was just too much. Oh, and color disadvantage, of course. So now I'm going to refresh Idun and warp her to the space just below that field structure, and that will ensure that Veronica does not consume the only space available to attack from. If I had put her back below the fortress defense, her combat would have been prioritized and then nobody else would have been able to get to Idun, which is definitely not what I want in this situation. So she will go ahead and hit Idun twice. Unfortunately, Reinhardt does deal damage to Idun. That means Thrasir's killing intent will be inactive once she does eventually attack. So Reinhardt actually goes down to a single iceberg activation, and Thrasir does nothing. Wait, Thrasir does nothing? Seriously? She has Flashing Blade 4. Is she slower than... Huh. I never thought I would see the day when a Thrasir was slower than Idun. Anyway, so let me go ahead and continue on with this battle. Idun is actually quite fine with just staying where she is and taking Veronica's attacks, and she doesn't take any damage from them. And of course, Veronica will consume Mirabellis' refreshes, so I am perfectly free to have the Airs advance towards the Aether structures while I kind of just sit things out over here. That special is definitely not Miracle. It's charged way too quickly to be Miracle. I'm not actually sure what it is. I don't remember. I'm not even sure I gave it a proper look, to be perfectly honest. Yes. But it shouldn't be too much of an issue to take Veronica down after I've started getting some good progress on the Aether structures. Let me actually smite Eir up 2 spaces. I should have done that with Eir's initial action, but oh well. So I think after this, it's going to be about time for me to start taking down Veronica. So let's just wait out this enemy phase, which does actually take an unfortunate amount of time since It's got all the combat animations and refreshing and such. But let me take out the Aether M4A now and break the field. And let's see... Oh, even with triangle advantage, Nagi isn't able to one-hit KO her. That's totally fine. As I recall, Veronica's defenses actually kind of suck, so I should be able to get something going with either Eir or Peony afterward. Let me take a quick look at her stat line here. She has 25 res. That's totally fine. Peony has 45 attack. That's more than 7 damage no matter which way you run it. So let's go ahead and take her out. I know Peony is not going to die to Mirabilis just because Mirabilis is so slow. And I should be able to take the Aether Fountain on the next turn by repositioning Nagi up to just break it. So 27 damage out of Mirabilis. That's no trouble at all. I just need to make sure that I... oh, actually, I have 2 Eirs, so I get a heal of 20. Peony doesn't really deal a whole lot since Mirabilis' res is so huge. But let me go ahead and break the Aether Fountain. And actually, I can just refresh Adun here, and she should be able to finish the job.
I will lead.
The next map is, I'm not actually sure how to classify this map. It's sort of space suppression-ish on the right side, but that same pressure is lacking on the left. There are rally elements, but with Raisin unable to reach the rally users from his starting location, I wouldn't call it a rally trap. The map's main threat factor is in Tibarn and Marita, the former being a standard Gale Force set backed up by Raisin, and the latter being backed up by both Yoon and Reinhardt. Any raiding party not well equipped to handle damage from the whole color spectrum, targeting both defense types, will have trouble here. As far as approach options, the simplest thing to do is smite a 2-range unit in to take out Tibarn from over the lava tile, then reposition that unit out with someone that can at least not die to Raisin. If you have a tank that can handle Tibarn on the enemy phase, you could also just place them here. Both of these methods ensure that you do not have to deal with the enemies on the left side of the map on the first enemy phase of combat, but I will caution that Marita will likely move first, and if she is in range of one of your units afterward, Reinhardt will reposition her, allowing Yoon to warp to him with aerobatics, slightly extending her threat range. Another option is to funnel up the left-hand side to bait out Reinhardt, and make sure that none of your team is in range of Tibarn after he receives Raisin's refresh. Once you've gotten the enemies moving, the next tricky bit is to deal with the Surtur and Marita. For the latter, if you can engage the enemy early enough, you may be able to play either refresh reposition or ring around the lava pools with slowly chipping her down with air, since she doesn't have distant counter or a means of inhibiting special charge. So I'm pretty sure that the enemy team using a Marita means that I'm honor bound to use my own. I kid, of course, but this team is actually my best bet for securing victory here. I'm going to kick things off with a couple of trap tests. I'll smite Eir up onto this possibly real heavy trap. It is real, alright. Break the bolt tower. That bolt trap also is real. I'll put Marita here, which is in range of both Tibarn and Raisin, and then get Peony to refresh Eir so she can flip her over so Eir's drop attack seal affects Marita. Now, Tibarn should attack first. Okay, 2 14s into 43 HP. That should be fine. His defense is definitely at least 30. If it wasn't at least 30, she would be dealing like 30 damage to him, at the very least. So he goes down to the Aether, and Raisin is actually going to go down in one hit. That's kind of funny. So her Aether's actually fully charged. So, oh, that was an interesting little interaction. Surtur used Rally Attack Death Plus on Marita because she was threatened by air. And then after Marita moved, Reinhardt repositioned her, allowing Yoon to warp to him. And of course, air totally destroys Yoon, so no big deal there. I'm actually going to go ahead and take advantage of my Gale Force Raven right now, so I can actually have him take down Reinhardt in 2 hits. Even with the full-on Bright Shrine debuff, he is able to have Heavy Blade active, so he can just run away after that. And now I can set up Marita on the enemy phase. I want to move her only 1 space, so that once I refresh with Peony from here, Lucina can now warp to Air, putting her in range to support Marita's engagement. So, another rally out of Surtur. And my Marita is actually much faster than this Marita since she has speed res solo to the enemy Marita's flashing blade, plus all the support from Bus and Gearscope and Grab Speed and all that fun stuff. So let me go ahead and just flip Eir up here so she can take out the Aether M4A, and I'll have Raven start progressing towards the Aether Fountain. And then we'll have to see which way Surtur chooses to move here. I don't think it really matters, although I guess if he moves to the right, then he'd be in range of the armor school. So he does move straight down, that's no big deal. Let me go ahead and take the Aether M4A, and he doesn't actually have Steady Stance 4, and as a result, he just dies to Aether. That extra damage is just going to cleave his defenses and make this a fairly quick kill. Today's final map is a space oppression setup with a restore trap element. Both Veronica and Maribel carry restore, allowing them to cleanse debuffs and possibly get an early pick after receiving a refresh from Olivia or Ishtar. They both also have Miracle, making them that much more annoying to deal with once they've gotten a few cleanses under their belts. It looks like this particular trap is most effective when a debuff is applied to Sothis, because the healers have no choice but to provide restore from the space in front of her, so they'll threaten these 3 spaces after getting Olivia or Ishtar's refresh. The biggest issue for the team is honestly its fairly weak composition. Any high-res red unit should be able to tank most of what this map has to throw their way. Air with Mystic Boost is also useful to minimize damage taken from the healers. A key thing to remember is that if one of your units is in range of a restore healer at the beginning of the enemy phase, the AI will become aggressive, even if that healer goes off to restore instead of attacking. That's one quick and easy way to get the enemies moving without too much danger to your team, because healers prefer to use restore over combats where they don't get a KO. Unfortunately, there's not much more to say here. How you deal with a restore trap depends strongly on what debuffs you're applying to which enemies. I can, however, strongly recommend that you keep the rules for when a restore healer becomes aggressive in mind as you plan your approach, and, as always, when in doubt, assume the AI is going to try to screw you over. Sometimes the best way to deal with the restore trap is to not really deal with it at all. So I'm going to go ahead and actually get into position for a turn 1 initiation for a Gale Force style clear. Let me go ahead and kick things off with Raven. I'll break this Silver Throne and then give him a quick refresh and have Air reposition him straight up. He will be able to 2H KO Veronica, especially since he doesn't have the Bright Shrine debuffs on him. That's the nice thing about engaging on turn 1. You don't have debuffs from the enemy's skills or structures. He'll be able to one-hit KO Yoon, and after that I can move Sita up 2 spaces, get a refresh from Peony, and have her take down Sothis. The buffs she gets from Peony's Gentle Dream, plus the Flower of Joy bonuses are just what she needs to seal that deal. After that, I'm going to need to take out Ishtar, and I'm kind of wanting to attack from the space below Ishtar, just so Sita's out of range of the Panic Banner. Since Maribel doesn't actually target the space with Raven, I'm expecting that this is actually a very safe thing to do, since Maribel's first action should be consumed by a restore on Olivia. So let's just make sure, see what happens here. That is indeed the case. Oh, and actually Olivia deals 5 damage to Sita, so she is forced to attack instead of providing a refresh to Maribel. I'm totally fine with that. So let's see, this should actually be a pretty easy cleanup here. I will be able to have Sita attack from here. Definitely want to be attacking from that location because it will allow me to go and break the Aether Fountain after Gale Force activates. And of course the top left corner is safe from Maribel, so I'll have Raven break the Aether Foray. And then I guess I might as well just kind of move people around. I'm not expecting Maribel to deal a whole lot of damage, and she won't charge up Miracle at all, and since she does have Pulse Smoke, so that charge she gets from attacking will be reverted after combat. So this is actually a pretty quick cleanup here. Sita should be able to one-shot her for the finisher. And that is it. I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Aether Raids Offense as much as I enjoyed Air's latest stint in the bonus rotation. It was also nice to be able to bring in Raven to the mode for the first time. Next week, we are going back into Astra Season, where I will finally get to use a 2-range bonus unit in Byleth Fellstars Duo. Hopefully, I'll see you all in another week for an Aether Raids Offense video covering that experience. So, thank you all again for being part of this series' journey to its 50th episode, and I will catch you next time.